Welcome, everyone, early in the morning. This will be an interesting talk because, well, UI stuff are mostly the most visible stuff, so they're really exciting, and we'll be talking about really exciting features. I'm Murat, I'm a developer advocate, and this is my great friend,
Manuel. Nice to meet you all.
Manuel. Today, we are going to talk about several topics. And again, as I mentioned, these are like UI features which everyone sees every day, so they're really exciting features. Let's start with foldables, I guess.
Oh, thank you. When we talk about foldables, we refer to this new form factor that has at least a display that can fold. And they broadly fall into two categories, folding and fold out. You can see folding device is on the left, and it has the flexible display on the inside. Oops, yeah. And usually, when folded, you cannot interact with that flexible display. So what usually happens, manufacturers add an additional display so you can interact with it one-handed. On the other side, you have the fold-out device, and it has the flexible display on the outside. And when folded, you can interact with it with a portion of that flexible display. But also, you have to consider other different form factors and see how it looks like, your app looks like there. So tablets, there are hundreds of millions of tablets in the market with different screen sizes, and also Chrome OS. The main takeaway of this section, foldables, is that if you follow best practices, everything should just work. You don't have to do a lot of extra work, such as handling configuration changes, and also saved instance state, and resizability. So let's start with handling configuration changes. In other talks or documentation, you can also hear this as app continuity. That means that your app should continue to work as it was before in the previous state. So your app should restore the state and the location the user was in before folding or unfolding. So, look out for position, scroll views, the view pager, the tab navigation you were at before. If the user, partially filled some information on the screen, that information should remain. Just provide a great user experience. Regarding resizability, there is this attribute available you can set in your activity, which is Android resizable activity. You can set it in the manifest. And if that, by default, is true, so that means that it indicates that your activity can get resized, and also it can go into multi-window. But if you haven't heard about this, because it's by default it's true, as I said, if you explicitly set it to false, that means that it cannot get resized, then we have a compat mode for you. So as you can see in the image, the device is folded and the user is interacting with it. When you unfold the device, it's going to maintain the same aspect ratio and the size that they had before. But if you allow the activity to get resized, then you have to look out for if the screen gets bigger, probably you have to use a different layout, but pretty surely you are already doing this, so you are good to go. Regarding aspect ratios, with foldables becoming more common, you have to consider testing with some others, for example, aspect ratio 1:1, where it's kind of a squarish screen. And before in the past, we allowed you to add the minimum aspect ratio, but now we also added support for declaring the maximum aspect ratio of your activity. Cool. Now, a pretty important behavior change in Android Q is multi-resume. So before, in Android P, if you were in a multi-window scenario, only one activity would be in the resumed state. The others are going to be paused. But now in Android Q, all of them are going to be resumed. That means that it can go on post as well. For example, like if there is a transparent activity on top, your activity will be paused. Or if the user is not interacting with your activity and, for example, interacting with picture-in-picture, your activity won't be focusable, and then it will be on post too. So how can you know if the user because now all of them are resumed, how can you know that the user is interacting with your activity? We have a new lifecycle callback, and it's called on top resumed activity changed. That it will be true when the user interacts with your device or with your activity, and false when you lose that category. And now, because all of them are the resumed state, you cannot guarantee that you are going to have exclusive resource available for you. So even if you are resumed, you can get disconnected from shared resources, such as camera or mic. So you have to handle the resource loss gracefully. So for camera specifically, we have some availability callbacks, for example, on disconnected, if you want to clean up your resources. But also, like you could say, hey, I really want this exclusive resource to be mine. So I'm going to set the Android resizable activity equals false, so I cannot get into multi-window. No, that's not going to work. So even if you set it to false, you are not going to be fully access these resources, and you might get disconnected either way.
And one thing you should realize, it's not only we match T-shirts, even the slides match our T-shirts.
We shared, it's a common pattern here, green Android. Something that is not new in Q, actually it's been there since API 11, it's drag and drop. With foldables becoming more common and also multi-window also being more prominent on these kind of devices and form factors, you should consider drag and drop for text and images. Obviously, if it makes sense for your app. If it doesn't, then do it. How can you test all of this? So we added support for foldable emulators in Android Studio 3.5. And we added 2 images with 2 different screen sizes, 7.3 inches and 8 inches foldable emulators. And you have to test how your app reacts to, as we said, configuration changes. You might be already doing this. Multi-window and multi-resume, this is pretty important. And the new screen ratios. So let's see some examples. For example, for the configuration changes, you see we have the emulator here open. There is a button that you can toggle to go from a folded to an unfolded state. Compat mode, again, if you don't allow your activities to get resized, then check this out to see how it behaves on different emulators. And multi-resume, like to see how your app reacts when it's running alongside other apps and all of them being the resumed state. If you want to know more about foldables, you can check out the documentation. The official documentation is pretty good. Drag and drop just in case. And then there is another I/O talk about foldables that you can watch on that link. This is enough for this topic. Next up is bubbles.
Yeah, and before we move into bubbles, I realized it would be hard for you to separate us, so I'll wear the hat. So we don't look like each other anymore.
Thanks.
And next time, let's change the slides. The guy wearing the same color, too. OK, bubbles. Bubbles is a strange topic because I'm pretty sure most Android users are interacting bubbles already. So what's up with bubbles? So if you make a phone call, leave the call, and go back to your home screen, the phone dialer uses a bubble. Most chat apps uses bubbles, and also other apps. So what's really changing, or what's happening, why we need this? The current bubble implementation is not really perfect, because actually the API which is built on it is not basically built for bubbles. They can appear over the notification shade, over the lock screen, over the keyboard, or if you're watching a video, hopefully mine videos, but they can even appear over the picture display. And they can appear over each other, and that can go worse. And I think on this screenshot, there is over 5 bubbling up over each other. And things can get crazy. And this is because basically the current bubble implementation uses system alert window. And this is an interesting API because it gives some unnecessary permissions to the app. The app can read your screen content anytime, and it can put any UI on screen, again, anytime, anywhere. And this is auto-granted since M. So what we are doing with the new API is we started talking about how to do this, and we realized something. bubbles are actually notifications. So the best place to build the bubble API is use the notification API. So the current bubble the new bubble API is built on notification API. They can float on top of other apps as you're used to, and they can be expanded to reveal functionality. They can collapse again, stack together, and if the device is locked on the lock screen, they just appear as a regular notification. And the best part is users can opt out anytime, because before the Bubbles API, actually it's only up to the app to disable the bubble, because system alert window is not really something the user can easily disable. And when we say opt out, when your first notification with the bubble metadata is triggered, the user sees a window asking if they want to see or block the bubble. If they choose to allow, any notification with bubble metadata will be shown as a bubble. And if they decide to opt out, then your bubbles will still be shown as a notification. So they won't go away, but they will just be shown as a regular notification. So let's see some code. How do we do it? First, of course, we need an activity, which will be the expanded view of the bubble. However, this activity needs to have two parameters. One is allow embedded true, and the other one is resizable activity. And keep in mind, your bubble may need to be triggered several times, such as a chat app. You can start several chats with different users. In that case, you also need the document launch mode set to always. This slide actually doesn't have anything with bubbles. There's only one line, which I grayed out. I'm just showing you a simple notification code and what will going to change, which I'll come to later. But first, let's see what we do to create the bubble. First, we already had the bubble activity in the manifest. So we create an intent with our activity. Then we use the bubble metadata builder to set the desired height, the icon. Then we set our intent. And finally call build to get our bubble metadata. Then we go back to our notification code and set our new bubble metadata. From now on, the first time your code is triggered, the user will see the screen asking if they want to see the bubble or not. And if so, every notification with the bubble metadata will be shown as bubble. And if it's an ongoing process, or if you want to start your bubble in the expanded mode, which can be like a chat request, which you click a button, start a chat, you want to set auto expand bubble to true, and you don't want to see the notification, so you set suppress initial notification to true. But make sure you use this carefully, because you don't want to trigger an expanded bubble on its own without the user interaction. So this is specifically when the user asks for it, or it's an action which the user triggered, such as let me click this click this button to start the chat. Here are some best practices. As I mentioned, bubbles take up screen real estate. They cover other app content. So you should only send a notification as a bubble if it's really important, or the user really wants to see it that way. So make sure your users are happy with that. And keep in mind, the user can opt out anytime. So the way you use bubbles should be OK to use with notifications to make sure your notification makes sense without the bubble activity. And the final thing is, when the user expands the bubble, it's an activity with its own task stack. So if you're doing complex navigation or complex tasks, And if the bubble is collapsed or dismissed, then everything will be cached or destroyed. So make sure you keep things really simple. And if you want to learn more about bubbles, you can take a look at the feature documentation and the sample code. Next, share sheet.
Cool. Let's share some news. Yeah, new in Q, we have a new share sheet. We have a simplified and enhanced new UI as we introduce the new content preview, and also a better and more performant direction. So let's start with UI. So this is what happens in Android Q when you want to share some text. And as you can see, we are trying to share a link to the Android documentation. And you can specify that, as always, with the extra text in your intent. And now you can also have a clipboard icon on the screen, which is pretty handy in some cases. Now you can also give it a title to the share sheet. And you can specify that with intent extra title. And you can also give it a thumbnail, which is over there on the screen. And you can specify that with the intents clip data. Just FYI, the thumbnail requires the title to be there. You like the new UI?
Yeah.
That's right.
Nice. And matches your T-shirt again.
Okay, great. So let's move on to Direct Share. Direct Share is a feature that allows apps to show app-specific options directly in the share sheet. So as you can see, it's highlighted on the screen. And now, when you want to share some text, you just click on that person's face, and it will jump straight into that application and share the content with it. So you don't have to open the app, select the contact, and then share it. But we had some problems in Android Q. It was a bit of a laggy experience that sometimes it could take up to 1 second for the direct share to appear on the screen. And this was because of the way developers had to implement it. So in Q, the old API, you had to implement a service. And when the service is running and the user wants to share something, then you will have to provide these share targets. And as you can see, that can get problematic when you have a lot of apps that want to be listening for this kind of data. And that's why the old API is deprecated. And we have a new direct share API. Before of that pooling mechanism that we provide shared targets when the user wants to share something, now this is a pushing mechanism that we are publishing these shared targets in advance. So the share sheet is going to load instantly when launched, so we don't have to wait anymore. And this is pretty similar to how the shortcut manager works. So for example, when you are publishing static shortcuts, when the user long press on your launcher icon, for example. And that's why we combined those features, and now you can publish these sharing shortcuts in advance with the Shortcut Manager API. The way you create shortcuts is with the Shortcut Info API, and now that's also supporting sharing shortcuts. You can make this feature backwards compatible down to Android M, Marshmallow, by using and adding the dependency in the shared target Android X library. And as you can see, there are up to 8 shared targets on the screen now. You like it? You think about it? It's good?
I'll use it.
OK, so I'm going to tell you how you can have your app being there and implement direct share for your app, so your sharing shortcuts are eligible to appear on the share sheet. The first thing is that you have to define a shared target. And this is usually done in the shortcuts XML file, the same place where you would define your static shortcuts. And that's included in the Android manifest file. So when you define a shared target, you have to specify the target class, which is the intent or the activity that will handle that sharing shortcut click. In this case, we are going to use this send message activity. And now you specify the data that you are interested in. In this case, text plain. And we give it a category, so we can link this definition with the actual Java or Kotlin code that will publish the shortcuts, as we will see in a second. So imagine we are in this publish sharing shortcuts Kotlin file. Now we want to publish some sharing shortcuts. So we define the category that matches what we just defined a few seconds ago. And we create an instance of a shortcut, of a sharing shortcut. We use the shortcut info compat. And with the builder, we specify the contact ID that will get the activity in the intent later on when the sharing shortcut is opened. And we specify a short label, for example, JSON, as as we saw in the image, the icon, the category that we specified, and we build it. And the way we can publish this is with a shortcut manager compat class. And then we pass in a list of shortcuts, or just one instance here, and we can call dynamic shortcuts. Shortcut manager provides CRUD operations, so you can now, in this case, add shortcuts, or you can replace them, delete them, anything you want. And that's it. To make this backward compatible, you just have to add this piece of metadata tag to the activity that will handle the sharing intent. And in this case, it's the send message activity. And you just have to copy-paste this code. Nothing changes. And for that, you have to add the dependency shared target Android X library. And in this moment, it's in alpha. Cool. We heard developers, and they wanted a way to prioritize their sharing shortcuts or intents over other apps, so they can encourage sharing within their apps. And for that, we added a new parameters that you can specify with an extra to-share target, so your sharing shortcuts take precedence over all others, so they're going to have more priority. And you can also do the same with intents, specifying that with the extra initial intents. This is a way to encourage sharing within your app, so the users don't leave your application when sharing.
Nice. So what happens to other suggestions?
Well, they get deprioritized and will appear after.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, no-brainer, right? If you want to know more about the new share sheet and changes in Android Q, you have the code lab to implement direct share. And this goes quite into detail about how to do everything I just explained. Also the documentation and a short 5-minute YouTube video that says what's new in the share sheet. Let's navigate to a different topic, shall we?
Yeah, exciting. I'm not sure if any of you watched the talk yesterday by Chris and Rohan. If not, I think everything is recorded, so I strongly suggest to watch it. It's a full-length talk only on this topic. Let's talk a little about Gesture Nav and edge-to-edge display. I'm curious if anyone has already Q beta and trying it. But if not, this is basically what it is. We have two main gestures. One is from the bottom, which takes the user back to home screen. And the other is from swiping either on the right or left edge to go back. And this is it. With this, you can use gestures to navigate in your, within your apps or through the system. But what's going on? Why? What's happening now? We are seeing great devices with great screens, and every vendor is implementing their own gestures. Some has the back and going home gesture at the bottom, while some on the side or the other ways. And this is definitely not very easy for developers because you can have controls or draggable items all around the screen, and you need to take care of them without creating any conflicts with the system-wide gestures. So we decided to step in and unify the ecosystem about gestures. This is the model which we will be promoting and supporting from starting with Q. One thing to note, 3-button navigation is not going away. It will be available as an option, and it works great. A lot of users like it, and also accessibility for accessibility features, it's working really well. Now let's see how to go edge to edge and support Gesture Nav. First, what's edge to edge? To start with, we want to make our app edge to edge by painting below the system bar and the navigation bar. And next, if you still have controls which resides in the gesture zones, we want to move them away by checking insets, because the best way to handle conflicts is not creating one. And finally, if you still have some controls which need to stay in the gesture zones, we have a new API called Gesture Exclusion Rex API, which basically opts out that small rectangles from the back gesture, so your controls continue working. Let's first focus on edge-to-edge and see it in more detail. If you check the video, first, Yeah, now I started the video. You will realize how the handlebar at the bottom, which we call lip, I guess, changes its color automatically. So the system will help you in recoloring the system features. This can happen dynamic or static depending on the device capabilities. And for older platforms, it can be just a translucent navbar color. And how do we do that? First, we need to go and change the system bar colors. In order to do that, go to your Teams XML and add status bar color and navigation bar color to translucent, transparent. Next, you need to ask the system to lay your app full screen. This is also something pretty easy to do. You need to pass several flags to system UI visibility. The first one is System UI flag layout height navigation, which, as the name suggests, lays out your app as if the navigation bar is hidden. The second one is System UI flag layout stable, which lays your app for the most extreme case. And finally, an optional one, System UI flag layout full screen, which paints your app behind the status bar. Now we have our app running edge-to-edge full screen, and we basically give a almost 1-inch free display space to our users, which is great. But what will happen to our controls, which resides in the gesture zones? In order to fix that, we have some additions to Window Insets API. For draggable controls, use system gesture insets, and for clickables, use window system insets to ask the system about how deep is the gesture area, and slightly shift your controls according to that. Let's see some examples on that. Bottom sheet is a popular thing, and it resides in the back gesture area, which is super bad for the user, because what they expect is to pull up the sheet and open it. However, they destroy your app and go to home screen, which is definitely not what you want to do, kick the user out of your app. In order to fix this, this is a sample code I added. First, check the current peak height of the control. Then use ViewCompat and on apply inset listener, check the current inset, and create an offset by using the inset on the peak height of the widget, which will create a more easy draggable experience for the user, and the user won't be leaving your app. Still, as I mentioned, you may need some controls which needs to stand on the edges of the screen. For example, sliders or video controls. Another example from yesterday's talk was resizing images. If you have such controls, use the gesture exclusion recs API to create zones which doesn't trigger back action. Some controls which you can use this for is drag handles that start at the edges of the screen, sliders, seek bars, and pull-out sheets either residing on the left or right edges. And again, how do we do that? Go find the location of your widget, create some, don't worry about the complicated code. I'm just basically creating small rectangles for the control areas, but create the rectangles, and then call the set system gesture exclusion recs API on draw or on layout of your view, and pass the rectangle objects. There is something I need to warn you about this API. We don't want users to opt out the full edge. So if you try to pass a rectangle which basically covers the whole edge, we will only create a gesture exclusion zone for the bottom 200 dips. So try to keep the rectangles as small as possible, which makes sense for the user. And again, we don't want several stuff to not really opt out from the back gesture by using gesture exclusion rechts APIs, such as horizontal cursors, which span the whole screen. View pagers, drawers, just update your dependencies, and we are doing our best to solve the issues. For example, for drawers, if you update to 1.1 alpha 2, it's already supported with that. But I think you may not able to see the behavior until Q. Need to check that. And with that, if you need more resources on that, we have the documentation, some dev bytes, and there's a great blog post by, again, by Chris, which I'm not sure how the visible link is, but you can easily find it.
You meant your dev bytes, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you miss me, those are my videos. And I strongly suggest Chris' blog post. That's how I really learned a lot about insets. The next topic is dark theme.
Oh, thank you. Wait, dark theme. I thought you were going to work at Dark Vader mask instead of that one. But okay, that one is okay too. Okay, new in Q, we have a new system-wide theme settings that you can find under display. And as you can see, it's highlighted in the image. When you turn dark theme on, it will not just apply to the system UI, it will apply to all applications. That's why users might expect your app to support dark theme. So imagine the user enables dark theme, is navigating through this dark system UI, open few apps that support dark theme. Whenever they open your shiny and bright application, they might get a bit annoyed if you don't support dark theme. For example, Google Drive here. So please don't be that app. And
by the way, I think they're fixed, so.
I checked last night. Anyway, there are two different ways that you can implement dark theme. The first one is our recommendation, which is a custom theme. And you don't have to do everything on your own. You can get a lot of help from AppCompat material components, the different libraries. And also we introduced new in Q, Force Dark. So Force Dark is just available in Q, whereas custom theme works down to API 14. It's Android 4.
So wait, there's an easy way and a hard way, and we recommend the hard way.
Yeah, we always do. Anyway, wait till the end. Okay, how can you create your custom theme? So first, you have to extend day-night theme, and that will enable the -night resource qualifier while dark theme is on. So first thing, if you're using AppCompat library, extend or use one of the day-night variants of that. Or if instead you are using material components, use one of those variants. What does it mean that it enables the -night resource qualifier? So imagine we have our color defined here, text primary color, and we put that in the values folder. And this will get used when in light theme. When the system or your app is in dark theme, it will try to use the color defined in the values-night folder. So here you can have different colors depending on the theme that you are on. And how can you use this? So you can use a text view and say text color and say text primary. So the day-night theme will automatically swap between these two colors depending on the theme it is using. But if you go to the 2:20 p.m. session, Chris Baines and Nick Butcher are talking about themes and styles, and they will tell you, don't use this approach. Instead, use theme attributes, and this is also what we recommend. So, by the way, hard-coding colors in your views is even worse than creating your color and specifying the color. But instead of this, use theme attributes. For example, for the background, you can use the attribute color surface. And this doesn't mean that you have to define all the colors for your app. You can get a lot of help, and the theme comes with some predefined colors. So when you are in light theme, it will use a light background color. And when you are in dark theme, it will use a dark background color. And if you are not happy with those predefined colors, then you can always update them. And the same for the text color primary. It will use a light color when in dark theme and a dark color when in light theme. So it's pretty handy. So I don't know if you realized, but some apps let you choose what theme to use. And you can do the same in your app. You can let the users decide, hey, I want to be in dark theme all the time. And for that, you can use this method, appCompat_delegate set default night mode. In this way, you can tell the system what mode to use. Could be dark theme, light theme, or follow the system, which depends on the system-wide theme setting. And the only caveat here is that values are not persisted. So when the user makes the selection, you have to store that somewhere, for example, in shared preferences. And whenever they open the app again, for example, if in your application file, then you have to call this method again with the option that the user previously chose. So for example, we are going to see an example with reply which follows the material designing specification. It's a sample. So you can see on the screen, the user can swap between light, dark, and system default. And when they select dark, the app will go into dark theme. And again, this is not just for Q. This works down to API 14. And now we are going to go to force dark, which is a simplified way to add a custom dark theme. What it's going to do, force dark, is automatically is going to convert your app to dark theme. So for example, we can see on the screen the Google I/O app, and when we apply force dark on top of it, it will become this. And how that works, this runs at render time, and it will inspect the content on your screen. And it will invert the colors if it needs to, in a really, really smart way. So for example, if it finds a bitmap, it will inspect the content of that bitmap and say, hey, I think I can invert this, or maybe I'm not going to invert it because it's a profile picture that I don't need to. So how can you do this in your app? So we can do that with force dark allowed, and this is an opt-in behavior. So this is not on by default. So you have to, for example, if you want to apply to the whole app, you can use it in your theme, and this will cascade down to all the different views of your UI hierarchy. And you cannot do this for the whole application. You can do that also for activity or screen-by-screen basis, or even view-by-view basis. For example, in the next slide, we can see we can turn off force dark for a specific view because it doesn't look nice, for example. So as a comparison, let's see how force dark and a custom theme plays along together. So this is the Google I/O app, and we can see that force dark and custom theme side by side. And we can see that force dark does a pretty good job, but it doesn't have that customization or personalization that you have with a custom theme. So we say, for example, use force dark if you want to get something quickly out of the door. So if you want to ship and have a dark theme enabled in your app in next week, you can use it. But then iterate, and if you want to go feature by feature, you can create a custom theme and then try to migrate to a custom theme in the long term. And as you can see, there are subtle differences. For example, the floating action button color and the tab selector is with a slightly lighter color. And then we can make the main content more prominent because we are making the background darker. And so that stands out with the navigation top bar that we have at the top, which we can make it lighter and then differentiate between the two different content. Was it clear?
OK, that explains. I mean, it's an easy way to jump in, and then you can customize everything.
Yeah, and yeah, it's going to improve the user experience, and you can make your app with that look and feel that your product manager wants to. So please do it. Don't be that app. Okay, if you want to know more about this, you have a code sample also available. That is a very simplistic code sample that makes you see how powerful this can be using theme attributes. More about it in the documentation, and then a dark theme and Gestural Nav I/O talk, which is pretty interesting. Cool. Next up is probably the last topic, last but not least. For me, it gives you the most return of investment. It's a really simple feature that is going to massively improve the user experience. What do you think?
Yep. So we're running short on time. I'll make it really quick, but first let's turn the dark mode off. So the last thing is settings panel, which will be super short. So the organizers, don't worry. Well, if your app needs some functionalities such as Wi-Fi, NFC, or mobile data, and it's turned off, it's kind of a bad experience because the user needs to leave the app, turn it on, and come back. And several things can happen at the time, a notification or something else, and they may never come back to your app. So why? That's why we introduced the settings panel, and we have several options if you need to trigger the internet connectivity settings or Wi-Fi, NFC, and volume. Basically what it does is it pops up a small dialog and lets the user turn on that feature and then continue within your app without leaving your app. And again, I told this will be super quick because this is the whole code you need to do. You basically create an intent with settings.panel.feature you want to trigger, and then call start activity for result with the intent.
That's it?
That's it. I keep it simple, man. And these are the reference and API documentation if you need to learn more. With that, I think we don't have much time for questions, but we'll be in the Google booth. Please find us and ask any questions if you have any. And thank you.
Thank you.